Thank you. We now move to item 13, and this is around asset recycling properties that are now not going to be on the list. So,
good morning again. Yes, thank you. Iki Panuku are recommending that 10 properties be removed from the asset recycling program. This is following extensive property investigations, consultation with the wider council group, which identified a number of issues with some of the properties. Other properties have been recommended for retention following public notification engagement with mana whenua and local boards, and where independent hearing commissioners appointed to consider submissions received have recommended revocation not occur. This has been followed up where this was reported through to the Parks, Arts, Community and Events Committee, and they've also resolved that revocation of a number of sites should not proceed. As such, the council is unable to dispose of those properties. This obviously will have an impact on council's financial figures of approximately $8 million, but through the asset recycling program, Iki Panuku will work with the Value for Money team to find other properties that can be recommended for sale to make up for the shortfall. We will inform a number of mana whenua entities who registered opposition to the disposal or the revocation of the reserve status of a number of sites. We will follow that up. And long-term implications are that these will continue to be managed by council, and a number of properties which are parks or such will then be governed by local boards as part of their local parks network. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Anthony. The first question I have is in the name of Councillor Newman. Councillor Newman has a question for you on Kenny Court. Councillor Newman.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Chair. My question to Panuku, so this follows the release of the Commissioner's findings from Plan Change 60, which have already dealt with to Kenny Court. In the report, it refers to further review undertaken by Parks, Sport and Rec and then Advisory Services to retain the open space. That's good, and I support all of that. Can I just understand that because it wasn't the advice previously that the officers felt that this was an open space, or this was a park that was required, that was deemed surplus, but can I just be ensured that actually what we will do now is we'll put this park back into the schedule and we will mow and maintain it, because I actually think that the impetus for this has been driven by the Commissioners for Plan Change 60 rather than us having a belated review of the status of the park itself. I just want to make sure that we actually do pick up the consequential operating cost of maintaining this particular pocket park, because it is important and the Commissioners deem that it is too. I know that what we're proposing here is to retain it as open space, but we need to ensure that we address the consequential cost of the retention of that, which I strongly support, but I just want assurance that that will happen.
Yes, through the Chair, if I could firstly clarify, we actually withdrew this property from the reserve revocation process, which councillors may recall from when it went to the PACE committee. That was following feedback that we received through the public notification period that we thought warranted further investigation, and it was on that basis that Iki Panuku referred this property back to council and asked that it be reviewed again. Now, it did end up being included in Plan Change 60, and because the local board were in attendance on that day, the Commissioners did hear them, but we had already withdrawn it from the reserve revocation process, and we did advise the Commissioners at the time that we were withdrawing it from the process. Following our withdrawing this from the reserve revocation process, we have worked with the Parks team, or Parks and Community Facilities team now at Council, and we have sought confirmation from them that they are prepared to continue to manage and maintain this property on an ongoing basis, and so that is the basis of our recommendation, and we can confirm that maintenance will be undertaken. If there are any issues with that and going into the future, we would ask that those are directed to the Parks and Community Facilities team.
Thank you, Chair. It's a really good outcome. It's up to the the next local board in Papakura to ensure that maintenance schedule is adhered to, because it's an important local park for those people. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Next question, councillor Cooper.
Thank you, and I'm happy to move these because there's good reasons why they should be removed. And my question is around the, was it 8.36 million possible that we won't be able to realise in our asset recycling program? You said we'd have to find other places. Have you got properties you're working on? Possibles?
Through the chair, yes, there's a lot of work going into that at the moment.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, councillor. Mayor Goff.
Yeah, thank you very much for the report, and by and large, you know, I agree with it on the basis that we've done due process and we've found reasons not to sell. The one that I'm curious about is the corner of Aspiring Avenue and Hilltop Road, because I drove by it this morning, as I frequently drive by it. And the 1,000 times I've driven by it, I've never seen a single person occupying the park, and I thought it was prime land for redevelopment. Now, you say that you have planning advice that there are restrictions from the national grid, I presume you're talking about the power, and then airspace restriction and aircraft noise, but all around it are housing. And I just cannot understand why there are restrictions on this land that wouldn't equally apply to the houses that surround this block, and it's $2.5 million worth, so it is a sizable return if we were to sell it. Can you just explain to me why those restrictions apply to this land and not to the land around it?
Through the chair, sorry, I'm not a subject matter expert on this by any means, but I believe some of the power grid restrictions came in only recently, probably the last 10 years, probably around the same time as the unitary plan. So those restrictions obviously followed the establishment of those existing subdivisions.
Yeah, it's still not rational that you can't build on that, but you can build in the 363 degree radius or circumference around it. The only point I'd make, Madam Chair, if we're not able to develop and that is set in place, then future council should think about doing something with it, because having a bare block of land that costs money to mow and doesn't have any attraction for people to use doesn't make sense to me.
Very cool. So I think we had a mover in councillor Cooper. I'm happy to second. With no further questions, do we have any comments? I think the comment that I would just make in conclusion is we do a lot of investigations around anything that goes up for sale, and this is just one of those perfect examples where we have looked carefully and found reasons why they shouldn't. And so I think that is important to note. These are real, you know, we don't just put it up and think it's going to be fine. We look into it with some detail, so I think that's important. Right, it's been moved and seconded, and I've got no comments, so I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. And so I just want to say thank you to you. It's been a pretty rough ride we've had this term, to Panuku, Eki Panuku, to you, Ants, Letitia, and all the team. Thank you very much for your hard work and investment in helping us get through a real tough time. Thank you. Item 14 now, and this is a process report, the preparation of our Auckland Council fourth quarter performance report. Karuna, welcome. If you'd like to take us through the report, thank you. Like saying you're on mute, you know?
Kia ora koutou. I'll take the report as read. This is a procedural report that provides quarter four's key highlights and achievements. The more detailed part of the report will be presented as part of the confidential item later on in the meeting. And this presentation will also cover the key financial results given the strict confidentiality requirements until the adoption of the annual report. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I call for questions, for those of you who can see the chair's recs, in the interests of accentuating the positive, as I am wont to do, with monotonous regularity when they occur. I have actually taken points 10 and 11, which are the key achievements across the group for the quarter ended from the agenda, and just noted in our resolutions that they are achievements. Right, any questions? They're just straight from the agenda. Any questions?
Oh, have you been to Gleneden?
Have I been to Gleneden? Of course I've been to Gleneden.
Well, I don't think the people there feel that had achievements on the roads. Just, yeah, because I'm going to be voting for this, but I'm just, as a bit of a rider, that a lot of our community are very upset about some of the improvements. Anyway.
I think the fact that they were completed.
Very good, they're completed on time. No, late, but anyway, it's all right, thank you.
Right. Okay, I think let's quit while we're ahead, okay? I'm happy to move. Deputy Chair, do you want a second? Thank you. I'll then take it to the vote. All those in favour say aye.
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 Against? Carried. Thank you. We move now on to item 15, which is the preparation of our draft Auckland Council annual report. Tracy, welcome, and Francis, would you like to take us through the process paper? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This also is a procedural report. It's about the preparation of the draft annual report and summary annual report for the 21-22 financial year. So the governing body will be asked next week to adopt, the week after, the 29th, to adopt these reports. And just a reminder that they are a legislative requirement, but they're also prepared so that we can be transparent about our finances and operations for investors. They are prepared by council and audited by Audit New Zealand on behalf of the Auditor General. At the time that we wrote it, and still, there was one outstanding issue with audit, and that relates to the audit of greenhouse gas emissions. They are reported in volume 1, and audit has determined that they are material measures, and it's taken some time to close that out. And I'll take the rest of the report as read, and through the chair, I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Tracy. Francis, anything more you want to add? No? We're going to talk about it later, so. Yeah.
No, we'll talk about it later.
Any questions? No, I'm happy to move. Deputy Chair, do you want a second? Thank you. Any comments? All I can say is bad timing, real bad timing. Day after the last governing body meeting, we released this. It's not done before. I tried my hardest, didn't I, Peter?
Certainly did.
I can do a lot of things, but I can't move mountains. I'll have to keep trying. Sorry, that was a bit flippant. It's been moved and seconded. Thank you much for your work. And again, thank you for your work in public over all our quarterly reports and our annual report over this term. Really appreciate the work, Francis, that you and your team have done. Thank you very much. I'll take it to the vote then. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 16 is a summary of the Finance Performance Information Memoranda and briefings, including the Forward Work Programme. Do we have a seconder, Deputy Chair? Thank you. Any questions or comments? No, I'll take it to the vote. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Before we go into confidential, and at the end of our public session, I'm going to take a chair's right just to say a few words. You don't need me to tell you that this term has been, without doubt, the most challenging financial term in the history of Auckland Council. I want to first acknowledge Team Auckland that we gave birth to, and the spirit that has come together as a result of those challenges associated with the international pandemic of COVID and one of the most significant droughts in Auckland's history. Climate changes, rampant inflation, and increased interest rates. None of these things were on our agenda 3 years ago. But our collective Team Auckland decision-making has actually dealt with them all. I want to particularly acknowledge our local boards who joined us for many of our workshops and willingly came to the table to understand and positively help with the challenges and decision-making elected members were required to make. It was a true shared governance. And I want to acknowledge that for many of us, those decisions were made in our homes, on our own, and whilst we all got used to remote technology. We have put in over 268 hours of workshops and 118 hours of meetings this term, a total of 386 hours. And despite the challenges, nobody's walked out, lost their cool, or had a bit of a tanty. So committee members, thank you, because the work that we've done has been tough. Committee, it's absolutely incorrect to say we have not taken a prudent and responsible approach to managing our finances. We have. And we have done so while still investing substantially in the infrastructure, facilities and services that Auckland needs. Now, we're not perfect, but in true Desley style, I would like to remind you of some of our achievements. Not all, but some. We've actually produced not 3, but 4 consultation budgets to adjust to the financial pressures that came our way and to stimulate economic recovery. Our decision-making has always reflected the majority of feedback from Aucklanders when consulted. We've delivered capital investment programs of more than $6 billion. Noting that Auckland Council has saved $2.4 billion to date, we've achieved operational savings and efficiency achievements in excess of $260 million. We've achieved group procurement savings of just under $150 million. We've raised just shy of $2 billion in green bonds, the first organisation in New Zealand to raise money this way. We've saved in excess of $12 million in IT services, and I really want to take this time to acknowledge the role that Mark Denver played in that. A man gone too soon. Thank you, and rest in peace, Mark. Our value for money achievements have totalled, and you haven't seen this figure yet, our value for money achievements have totalled in excess of $528 million. Now, just in case you don't know, that's over $500 million. That's what our value for money achievements have totalled this term. We've been able to widely use debt to fund growth, while keeping our debt to revenue ratio well within the group's to 90% policy limit, noting our current debt is only 16% of our assets and now well below our pre-COVID level of 270%. As for our rates increases, we have never had the highest average general percentage increase of any council in New Zealand. Currently, we are 4th after Tauranga, Wellington and Dunedin. And in doing all the above, we've maintained investor confidence as reflected in our credit ratings with S&P Global Ratings and Moody's Investor Services of AA and AA2 respectively, both with a stable outlook. We can also be proud that despite the many difficulties of this term, we've been able to continue to deliver our programs of transport, housing and environmental infrastructure that is needed to prepare our city for a population that, according to Statistics New Zealand, is still projected to top nearly 2 million by 2030. This work has included progress on the Central Interceptor by Watercare, progress on the City Rail Link, the first stage of the Eastern Busway has been completed, the reopening of the new Puanui station and upgraded Otahuhu station, the opening of the new Lynn to Avondale shared path, Tamaki Drive cycleway, and of course the Northern Busway extension. In our local communities, we've successfully delivered more than 170 environmental projects for our local boards. And we've delivered projects that are changing the shape of our city, like the new coastal space on the waterfront, the Te Kōmiti Public Square on Queen Street, and our new downtown ferry terminal. Mayor Goff, thank you for giving me this chair role. When I agreed, I never thought it would be quite as tough as it has been, but it's been an honour and a privilege. Thank you. To Team Auckland and the committee especially, it's been a wild ride, hasn't it? But I thank you for your willingness to work together to get us through this challenging 3-year period. To my deputy, Shane, thank you for all you have done. You've certainly cut your teeth as a councillor and deputy chair of this committee on the toughest financial term we've ever had. But finally, I want to thank our staff. This term we have had 3 CFOs, but I want to particularly thank you, Peter, for your guidance and support. So to your finance division, the legal division, keeping us safe, communications, and boy is that an effort getting anything positive out from them, but great work team trying, democracy and engagement, and actually council staff right across our staff and our CCOs. Thank you for your professionalism and hours of work at all hours of the day and night you put in, especially during the emergency budget. Sandra, to you, thank you for the cups of tea and the ginger crunch, although there's no ginger crunch. You don't know until you chair a committee of the whole how important your people on your right are. Look, ladies and gentlemen, I recognise that we could not have made the achievements we've had without a major collective effort from across the group. So it gives me great pleasure. And I must also acknowledge the CSA team. Every council will know behind us all a great CSA team. I've had a staff of a whole lot, but I specifically want to mention Marika, Tamsin, Rachel and Jamie. So it gives me great pleasure, and I must say a sigh of relief to sign off as your Finance and Performance Chair for the term. Thank you.
Chair, would you mind if I jumped in and said a few words too?
Certainly.
Very unusual, I know. Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, look, I want to first and foremost thank you and acknowledge you, Chair Simpson, for your tireless service as Chair of this committee. I'm sure when you agreed to take the role, you thought that, you knew it was going to be hard, but you didn't know it was going to be this hard. And when I got the phone call from Mayor Goff to be your deputy, I thought, well, what a fantastic promotion. I don't know if I feel that way anymore. But you may not have expected to lead this committee through a public finance crisis of droughts and COVID-19 and to get out the other side stable and healthy, which is just a fantastic endorsement of your chairship. If I may adapt a common whakatauki for Te Wiki o Te Māori, mā whero mā kahurangi ka o te ai te mahi, with red and blue, the work will be complete. And I want to acknowledge that Team Auckland approach that you have started, and that I hope the successor committees continue on in that legacy. Lastly, I just want to acknowledge as well the staff that have worked so hard. Peter Gudsell, the holders of your role in the past, and your entire team. I've seen the lights at night when you go past Albert Street, working late, working in weekends, making huge sacrifices to keep the city afloat. Tough times are going to continue. We're going to have these problems next term as well, but we're very lucky to have the tireless service of your team to call on as we work to bring our city back to shared prosperity. So thank you and acknowledging you.
Thank you very much, Deputy, Your Worship.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and very briefly, you've acknowledged all of the team and appropriately, and I won't repeat those acknowledgements, but a big thank you to everybody right across the council staff, professional staff and elected representatives for what's overwhelmingly been a collaborative approach to dealing with challenges that 3 years ago we didn't imagine would ever happen. The pandemic is the first in a lifetime for all of us, and the impact was pretty devastating. And despite that impact, we've come through with prudent, responsible management of our finances. We've maintained the confidence of the credit rating agencies. We've kept debt well within even our levels set before the crisis, let alone the increased levels that the rating agencies gave us. And we've still been able to deliver on that huge amount of infrastructure. I think you mentioned $6 billion worth of infrastructure. And some councillors here last night were able to get to the second tunnel breakthrough for CRL. And you stand in the cavernous area that's going to be the concourse for the Te Waihoratu station. You watch that machine break through the concrete wall, and you know that when we complete a project that it's going to double the capacity of rail and cater for up to 54,000 people an hour in peak hour ultimately. And you say these are concrete, these are real achievements by the council, notwithstanding the difficult times. But I want to add to your list of thanks, thanks to you personally for your chairing, and to Shane Henderson for being deputy chair. I think that you've helped the collaborative spirit of the committee. Can I adapt a saying of Mao Zedong, who said it doesn't matter whether the cat is black or white as long as they catch mice? Well, it doesn't matter whether members of this committee are blue or red, as long as they get on and do, or green, as long as they get on and do the job. And what we've seen is this council, when other councils have fallen into having commissioners, their infrastructure is broken and still not remedied. I won't name the councils, you know them. We've worked together to get pragmatic responses to real problems, and we've worked on the basis of being evidence-driven, and that is absolutely critical. Any council that doesn't work on an evidence-driven basis, and any council where the councillors aren't prepared to leave their personal politics outside the room and come and find solutions that will make our city a better place and a world-class place to live, it shouldn't be around the table. So my big thanks to you, Madam Chair. We've worked closely together through all of those budgets. I think we've achieved good things for the city in really tough times. So a big thank you to everybody around the table that has contributed in a positive and constructive way that has marked really this committee and the way in which this council has operated. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Kia ora, and thank you for that.